here's what's interesting to me. So Mamdani is going to be the new mayor of New York, 34-year-old kid. Like I said, I live in New York. I couldn't vote in that election, but if I could, it would have been an easy choice. But here's what I really don't understand. The man who is actively trying to use hunger to get his political way, saying that people won't have food unless they do his political bidding, is saying that the man who wants to make rent cheaper, public transportation cheaper, and food cheaper is the one who is ruining in America. So the man who wants to starve you to get what he wants thinks that the dude who wants to feed you, house you, and get you, make you able to get around cheaper is the horrible one. That tells you everything you need to know.
Comments lit up. You made millions off their pain, and now you're upset about a tax that helps them? One person wrote. Another, when you got shot 9 times, taxpayers paid your hospital bill. Remember that? Folks dug up the whole backstory. The grandmother who needed food stamps, the neighborhood programs that kept kids safe, the public systems that once mattered. That's where D.L. Hughley stepped in. Known for blunt takes and razor-sharp commentary, he couldn't sit this one out. Hughley called it out for what it was: rich celebrities who forget their roots getting dramatic over a tiny tax meant to lift the rest. He didn't stop there. He pointed to the double standard. When food stamps and housing aid got slashed, these same voices were quiet, but propose a 2% tax on million-dollar earners, and suddenly it's the end of civilization. Hughley's line stung. The man trying to make rent cheaper, transit easier, and food more affordable is being painted as the villain, while the people who keep starving those systems are treated like heroes. And that hit because, honestly, he's not wrong. This fight is bigger than one mayor. It's a battle over who a city is for.
Proposed is that we raise $10 billion to pay for our entire economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city, because we know he'll use federal funding as leverage over the city. And we will do so in 2 key ways. The first is to match the state's top corporate tax rate to that of New Jersey. We are at 7.25%. They're at 11.5%. Corporations can pay it over there, they can pay it over here. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't just apply to corporations headquartered in New York City. Because when you say this, people will say, well, they're going to go to Florida. Wherever you are headquartered, as long as you do business in the state of New York, you are taxable for that corporate tax. We're talking about corporations that are making millions of dollars, not in revenue, but in profit. And the second is taxing the top 1% of New Yorkers. We're talking about people who make $1 million a year or more, taxing them just by a flat 2% tax increase. And I know if 50 Cent is listening, he's not going to be happy about this. He tends to not like this tax policy, but I want to be very clear. This is about $20,000 a year. It's a rounding error. And all of these things together, they make every New Yorker's life better, including those who are actually getting.
Now, let's start with the man at the center, Zohran Mamdani. At 34, he made history. Not just as the first Muslim mayor, but as someone campaigning on policies that actually target everyday struggle. His platform was straightforward and radical in its simplicity. Freeze rent, make housing affordable, and push for free public transit so working New Yorkers can finally breathe. To regular folks, it sounded like relief. To the wealthy and well-connected, it sounded like a threat, because for once, policy wasn't built around their comfort. Mamdani proposed a modest 2% tax hike on those earning over $1 million and tougher corporate taxes to close the loopholes developers exploit. He even called out the broken property tax rules that let billionaires pay less for Central Park-facing penthouses than middle-class homeowners in Queens or the Bronx. It was bold, and it drew an instant line in the sand between those who want real change and those who would lose from it.
New York has been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands.
Enter 50 Cent. The rapper turned businessman framed Mamdani's win as the beginning of New York's downfall. In a now infamous Instagram post, he shared a tombstone photo reading RIP NYC 2025, as if the city died the day a progressive mayor took office. Then he posted a dinner snap captioned, "Escape from New York. All roads lead to Shreveport." Not subtle. It was a flex.
50's been plowing money into Shreveport, building an entertainment foothold with G-Unit Film and Television, and the message was clear. Tax me, I'll spend my money somewhere else. It's the same billionaire threat we hear every time taxes come up. Pack up and leave. But coming from someone whose brand was forged in New York's struggle, it landed differently. The backlash came fast and brutal. Fans called him out for hypocrisy. You built fortunes from the city's pain, and now you wag a finger at policies meant to help those same streets.
So Zohran Mamdani just became the first Muslim mayor of New York City. And 50 Cent, who is a New York native, is not too happy about that. In fact, he just posted this on his Instagram, saying, "Rest in peace to New York City."
You know, what I would say to you, 50, if you are indeed watching, or anyone else who's watching this show, is I continue to think that having the top 1% of New York City, who are making more than $1 million a year, having them pay 2% more for an economic agenda that would transform every New Yorker's life, including their own, is something that is worthwhile.
And my job as someone who believes deeply in the public sector is to ensure that we're delivering public excellence. And that means every dollar that we raise, I want to be able to prove to you that it's every dollar that's being well spent. That's the relationship there. And I do have to say, even though we have a disagreement on tax policy, every time I get a death threat, I still listen to many men.
And Republicans actively protect
News dropped that Zohran Mamdani had just become New York City's first Muslim mayor. The city lit up. Celebration, hope, pride, everywhere. But before the confetti even settled, one of the loudest hometown voices decided to dampen the mood. 50 Cent, a New Yorker who built his legend in the very blocks Mamdani now represents, popped up on Instagram with a blunt post. "Rest in peace to New York City." Ouch. It landed like a gut punch, dramatic, dismissive, and dripping with entitlement. For a guy who used to rap about surviving the city's hardest corners, that message read like someone who'd already checked out. And of course, the internet lost it. Comedian Dr. Hughley stepped into the fray, ready to remind 50 that no matter how high he climbs, he can't erase where he came from. But hold up. Before we dig into this explosive showdown between a rap mogul, a comedian, and the boldest mayor New York seen, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell, because this story reveals more than celebrity beef. It exposes a whole attitude.
To you, 50, if you are indeed watching, or anyone else who's watching this show, is I continue to think that having the top 1% of New York City, who are making more than $1 million a year, having them pay 2% more for an economic agenda that would transform every New Yorker's life, including their own, is something that is worthwhile. I have to say, even though we have a disagreement on tax policy, every time I get a death threat, I still listen to many men.
It's true. But you take many men for motivation. I was going to say your answer sounds a little bit like clickety clank, the money goes into my piggy bank.
Wow.
And if we had more time, we'd do more 50. Can we?
It's about
This whole feud isn't just about one rapper or one mayor. It's about a system that keeps people scared and quiet. It shows how quickly empathy evaporates once you start sharing rooms with folks who benefit from you staying silent. Meanwhile, Zohran Mamdani refused to get dragged into the noise. When reporters asked about 50's comments, he answered with charm and composure. He said he wasn't offended, he was focused, then smirked and added, "Even though we disagree on taxes, every time I get a death threat, I still listen to many men." That one line exploded online. It proved Mamdani could take a hit and turn it into swagger, something New York politics hasn't seen in ages. Behind that calm, he was sending a message. "I'm not your enemy. I'm just asking those who've succeeded here to help the city succeed too." That's leadership. But 50 didn't see it that way. Instead of easing off, he doubled down, reposting Mamdani's clip with a caption claiming, "His intentions are good, but his tax plan will drive big money out, and if he defunds the police, they're gonna purge." Classic fear spinning. The same end of civilization routine wealthy folks pull whenever someone challenges their comfort. But here's the thing, those threats, they're bluff. We've watched this movie before. During the campaign, billionaire investor Bill Ackman dragged the money non-stop, calling him a socialist disaster, swore he'd flee to Florida if Mamdani won. But the moment Mamdani did win, Ackman congratulated him publicly and said, "Let me know how I can help." Funny how fast the tune changes. New York is too big, too powerful, too influential to abandon. Media, finance, culture, it's the heartbeat of all of it. Nobody can replicate that in Florida, Louisiana, or Texas. The "we're leaving" line is just a scare tactic to spook voters and politicians. When it falls flat, they stay put and keep collecting checks. So when 50 said all roads lead to Shreveport, it wasn't a plan, it was posturing. Deep down, he knows the energy that built him will always come from New York. Then there's the defund the police fear myth. Mamdani never said he wanted cops gone. He said the budget needs balance. Instead of pouring millions into an overfunded department that still can't fix root issues, he wants more investment in housing, mental health, and youth support, the kind of things that stop crime before it starts. But in 50's version, that magically becomes a purge. The irony is brutal. Communities get safer when people are stable, not terrified. And that's what Mamdani is pushing for. When people twist that into chaos, it says more about their fear of losing status than any concern for safety. Hughley saw right through it, and he made sure everyone else did too. He called out the manipulation, the scare tactics, the hypocrisy. He pointed out that celebrities like 50 thrive on a narrative that keeps people divided, because as long as regular folks fight each other, nobody asks why billionaires keep getting richer while everything else crumbles. You can't rap about the streets, then side with the landlords. You can't profit off pain and act shocked when someone tries to fix it. That hit hard. Fans called it a reality check for the rich. One viral comment said, 50's mad about a 2% tax, but regular people pay 40% and can barely survive. Who's getting robbed? Another wrote, you said get rich or die trying, now you're mad someone's trying to help people live. The internet doesn't miss. As memes and think pieces piled up, it became obvious 50's scare campaign backfired. Instead of turning New Yorkers against their mayor, he accidentally turned them against him. Meanwhile, Mamdani's calm, steady responses only boosted his standing. He didn't insult, didn't panic. He talked accountability, community, and progress as something to inspire, not fear. And suddenly people realized maybe this radical mayor is just talking basic decency. Even some of 50's own fans started commenting, this ain't the 50 I grew up with. That's when you know a line's been crossed. By week's end, one Instagram quip had blown up into a national debate about wealth, loyalty, and identity. Hughley's words echoed across podcasts, talk shows, and timelines. Mamdani's approval ratings climbed. And the symbolism was almost poetic. A rapper, a comedian, and a mayor representing different eras of struggle colliding in one cultural flashpoint. But the deeper message was clear. Progress terrifies the people who profit from stagnation. This isn't really 50 Cent versus Zohran Mamdani. It's what happens when someone who once represented the underdog starts defending the system instead. It's how success can warp perspective, how fear disguises itself as logic, and how the loudest voices are often the farthest from reality. Because while 50 panics over a tax hike he can easily shoulder, millions of New Yorkers worry about rent, groceries, survival. That's the gap Hughley was exposing from the start. And as the dust settles, one question hangs in the air. When did helping the poor become controversial? When did fairness become frightening? 50 once rapped about surviving a city that tried to break him. Now he's acting like it's dead because someone else wants to save it. The irony writes itself, and that's why Hughley refused to stay quiet.